All right. Hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It's Nigel here once again, and this is it. This is our first of which I'm hoping to be many year-end awards. Um, Pretty much how this is going to work, Eric, is that I've got three categories based off the three things I talk about the most on my channel here, that being video games, movies, and wrestling. And we're going to talk about some of the best and worst when it comes to the years, uh, as well as some room for improvement when it comes to these things. And one or two. The only real rule set that I have here is that it has to be something that I reviewed within the year. So a match I watched and reviewed within the year, or a video game I played and reviewed within the year, and a movie I watched and reviewed within the year. So these are all of these are things that I actually did and completed this year, at least especially when it comes to the video game, because there was a game that I didn't complete, but it definitely would have had a spot on here. But I'm hoping to complete it, next year. But nevertheless, without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting with the video games, and I have them in the order from like the shortest section to the longest. So we have video games, then movies, then wrestling, and the wrestling one's gonna get lengthy, but you're gonna see why. But starting with the video games, my favorite video game that I played and reviewed, uh, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it was Psychonauts, which it almost seems like cheating because it was so close to the end of the year by the time I finished it. But what can I say? Psychonauts is a very fun game. I just reviewed it last week, aka last month, aka last year, on the channel. So go check out that review. But it was a really fun game. The way it portrays mental health and some people's struggles with mental health was phenomenal. The gameplay was really fun and yeah, very enjoyable. As for my least favorite video game, I gotta give it to Shaq Fu: A Legend Reborn. Like, this is a game. For starters, this is a game I reviewed during Awful Month, which yeah, some of those have made this lit. It's at least some parts of this category, and I'm sure you can figure out which parts. But with Shaq Fu, like, it's a game that almost seemed doomed to fail. Like, the original Shaq Fu, nobody liked. So when this remake slash remaster slash reboot came out and them changing up the format to be more of a side scrolling beat 'em up. People's expectations were kind of low. And it at least lived up to those expectations. It wasn't very good at all. It was pretty boring. It was pretty boring and repetitive. It didn't it wasn't there for too long. It was a pretty short game, but otherwise it just wasn't. It wasn't good at all. It was very dull an experience. Unfortunately, and then a video game that I think could have used improvement was Bakugan Battle Brawlers. Now, this is something I actually reviewed during my birth month, and because it's a game I played during my childhood. And this is more of a hindsight thing. Younger me wouldn't have cared because getting to play as the Bakugan on and being a part of the Battle Brawlers and all that was fantastic stuff. But in hindsight, looking at it, there was many Bakugan that were missing. The gameplay was kind of simplistic and repetitive. The story was nice at least, but yeah, the other aspects I wish were improved upon, and them changing up the format in Defenders of the Core, I think probably was the best way to go when it comes to that. But yeah, so that one I think could have used quite a bit of improvement. But you know what? For a licensed tie-in, I'll give it this. For a licensed tie-in game, I've definitely seen worse. But then, and moving into the next section, that being movies. So first we have my favorite and least favorite movie. So my favorite movie, and it's actually two of them I listed, and I actually spoiler alert, I having two entries or multiple entries, I actually did quite a bit on this list because throughout the favorites and least favorites, because there was a lot of stuff not only that we did this year, but a lot of stuff that was both good and bad, I should say. But yeah, so for my favorite movie, this year, I gotta give it to the Spider-Verse movies. That being Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. It's like Into the Spider-Verse was phenomenal. It still holds up even several years later, and plus it was my treat to myself after having finished reviewing stuff for Awful Month, like going and watching that movie. It was a breath of fresh air compared to everything else. It was so fantastic. Like the art style is still phenomenal. The story is still uh, really heartwarming, real coming of age story, and it has quite a bit of humor as well in it. And a sequel, Across the Spider-Verse, is just as good, if not better in some cases. Like it's really a toss up. When it comes to these movies, the debate on whether which one was better, or if people said either one of these, there would be there would very much be reasons to justify it. Like Across the Spider Verse, it takes all the great elements, all the elements that made the first movie Into the Spider Verse great, and just expound upon the more coming of age, more drama. It ends on a cliffhanger. Like you're excited to see where it goes, and I can't wait to see what they do with Beyond the Spider Verse. I know it did get delayed a bit, but otherwise, yeah, I am super excited to see what they do in Beyond the Spider Verse. I am hyped. My body is ready. As for my least favorite movie, if you saw it when the review first came out, then you probably saw it coming. But still, it's worth repeating. The Last Airbender. What a pile of crap this movie is. And it's incredible how awful this movie is. If you're a fan, sorry, I should say, if you're not a fan of the source material of Avatar: The Last Airbender, or if you've never seen the show, what are you doing? Go watch the show. Although admittedly I did also get to it kind of late, but if you haven't watched the source material and you have no idea who the characters are and the backstory or anything, this is just like a bad movie. And it very much is a bad movie. But if you're a fan of the source material, if you enjoy Avatar: The Last Airbender, this movie goes from bad to infuriating. Like, there's so much they get wrong. There's so much that they miss the mark on. The effects are terrible. The characters have no chemistry. The acting is atrocious. Everything about this movie sucks. It is terrible. And even the things it quote unquote gets right, it barely gets right. It seemed like M. Night Shyamalan just pulled up a quick wiki article on Avatar: Last Airbender, the show, and just decided, you know what, we're gonna make a movie about it. Thank goodness this movie didn't get a sequel, and thank goodness it didn't include characters like Azula or Toph, so that it ruined them as well. Even though Azula was teased at the end, and thankfully those characters did not get dragged into this absolute pile of muck, which is this movie. Like, this movie is terrible. I do not recommend this movie at all. Like, this movie was awful. It truly it was awful, and which is why it was very appropriate to review it for Awful Month, because that movie truly is terrible. Like, I would not watch that movie again unless somebody paid me quite a bit of money. But nevertheless, I don't mean that War Tribe money either. I'm talking about the big bucks. Next up, we have movie series. So I did a few movie series this year. In terms of my favorite, and this one's admittedly probably kind of cheating too, but the original Spider-Man trilogy. Like, watching it for my birth month, and movies I grew up with, it was still a lot of fun. However, they are movies that still hold up. Not everything from the movie still holds up perfectly. Like, there's definitely some elements that are like looking back on it, but otherwise, it's still a really awesome trilogy. It was one of the things that really made superhero movies cool again. Where the '90s kind of fell off when it came to superhero movies for the most part, the 2000s picked it right back up with stuff like this trilogy, and like the Dark Knight trilogy and stuff, and of course the birth of the MCU, who and this movie, I think, definitely Or these movies, I should say, these series of movies are definitely a lot of fun. Of course, does kind of fall off towards the end with Spider-Man 3, but otherwise, it's still a really phenomenal trilogy. Yeah, I must say. In terms of my least favorite saga, and really the only I think only real other saga of movies I looked at this year, but it's not the only reason why it's there, and that's the X-Men saga. And that's because like the X Men saga, I think started off really well. Oh, there are plenty of things that did really well, and this was another movie that really helped turn the tide when it came to superhero movies. And of course shout out to the Blade movies as well, which I definitely will watch at some point on the channel. But these movies, while they did help turn the tide in terms of like being in favor when it comes to the superhero movies, otherwise there are plenty of things that they missed the mark on. Plenty of like head scratching, unintentional perfect timing as I scratched my head there, but I promise that was not really on purpose, but very much like head scratching decisions, and when it came to some of the characters, how they were written. Some characters obviously got more time to shine than others, and it ended on not quite a bang but a whimper with the New Mutants. Like it was a saga that had a lot of potential. Some of it got realized, it's others not. Some of it kind of fell to the wayside, but it did give us the Deadpool movies, and for that we are grateful. So hoping to see what they do well with the X-Men in the MCU. And to be honest, like at one point people were excited to see the X-Men in the MCU, but sadly with the trajectory of how the MCU has gone, and I can't fully comment on it because I'm not fully caught up, but with the trajectory, I know some people are kind of scared, but I am at least interested to see what they do with the X-Men in the MCU. And then the movie that could use the improvements, the Last Airbender, of course. Like, hey, honestly, that movie needs all the help it can get. Hey, I'll be honest, pretty much for all the aforementioned reasons. And but yeah, that movie, it needs a lot of help. It needs like a complete rewrite. Here's to hoping the Netflix show isn't as bad as the movie. Like, like um, like just from like the images and one or two trailers I've seen of the Netflix show, it's already better than the movie. So you're already off to a good start. Just do not mess up as hard as the movie. There is no way in hell that you can mess up as badly as the Last Airbender movie did. It But now we move into the wrestling part, and like I said, this is the long part because we have several little kind of subsets and subgenres that we have to get into when it comes to what we have to discuss here. So, starting with my favorite and least favorite matches. So I have my favorite, least favorite individual match from different companies, that being WWE, WCW, and TNA, and that's like the matches I went back and reviewed, like the old. I don't necessarily want to call them old school, but like I guess not current matches. And we have my favorite and least favorite match overall of these. Then we have kind of this year's what happened this year, I should say. Hey, my goodness. So we have the most disappointing match from WWE and AEW. We have the match of the year from WWE and AEW. We have match of the year from NXT. And I probably should do most disappointing match. Match for NXT. I'll type that in real quick because it looks like I forgot it. But then we also have favorite, least favorite event, and from WWE, and as well as from when we went back in the vault, because believe it or not, we did review a couple like older events from WWE. Then we have favorite, least favorite event AEW, then NXT, then favorite, least favorite event overall, favorite wrestler from WWE and AEW, least favorite wrestler from WWE and AEW, most improved from WWE and AEW, match that could have been improved from WWE and AEW, event that could have been improved from WWE and AEW, favorite moment of the year and biggest missed opportunity from WWE, and favorite moment and biggest missed opportunity from AEW. So quite a lot, but I will quickly pencil in for NXT, but otherwise let's get started. So my favorite individual match that I looked at for WWE this year, I gotta give it to King of the Ring '98. That being The Undertaker versus Mankind, the Hell in a Cell match. And admittedly, it's something that you probably could have seen coming, but the match is definitely legendary for a reason. Like probably one of the best matches ever, one of the most important matches ever, one of the most iconic matches ever, featuring multiple iconic moments, including one of the most iconic moments in WWE history. Like one of like the most replayed moments in WWE history. Just a lot of history. Mankind is one tough sob. He and the Undertaker did his part as well, of course, but just all kinds of fantastic stuff when it comes to this match. In terms of my least favorite match, I actually have two picks. Picks for this year. So the first is, and both these do come from Awful Month. The first is Great American Bash 2006, The Big Show versus The Undertaker, and Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg at WrestleMania 20. Of course, Great American Bash, that was the Punjabi prison match, aka the Punjab prison match, and yeah, that match was definitely a stinker. Or very, very boring of a match. When it comes to structure or based when it comes to structure based matches, like WWE has tried to recapture that magic. Like they got it obviously with like the steel cage and the Hell in a Cell. Then they recaptured it with the Elimination Chamber, but they haven't been able to do it ever since. And this match definitely an indicator of it, and it's more so that the action within was also pretty boring and pretty dull as well. Like out of all three Punjabi prison matches that have been in WWE history, approximately 3 of them have sucked, and we've only got one. And a bit of a spoiler for Off Month this year, or we're gonna look at the next one until we finish it. We're gonna finish all 3. It's gonna hurt, but we're gonna finish all 3. But now heading over to WCW, who we have for my favorite match there, and this is more so by process of elimination, but it's still a pretty good match. That being, hang on, first we gotta talk about the other bad match in WWE, that being Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg at WrestleMania 20. Now, only the blame is 50-50 as to why this match sucked. 50% due to circumstance, the other 50% Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, making their work in the ring. So, of course, the match was known for both men being on their way out of the company. Of course, Brock Lesnar was going to try a stint in the NFL, and Goldberg's contract was up, so the people definitely turned on the match, and turned on the match heavily. Like the people booed the crap out of that match. But you know what? Brock Lesnar and Goldberg's performance did them no favors, because pretty much once they heard the boos, they totally shut off and didn't even bother trying. Like the thing is, you can win the crowd back. You're able to win the crowd back, but they didn't even try that. They received the boos, and then they just went out there and just kept on putting on the stinker. Or like if it was a great match, it definitely could have brought the crowd back. Or at least a portion of them. I don't know if you would have won the full crowd back, but at least you at least won a portion. And even people would be like, you know what, the fans they turned on the match, but you know, it was still a great match, and you at least have something good to leave off with. Like, you have something good to remember them for before they leave. But nope, we can't even be bothered to do that. Literally, the best part was when Stone Cold stunned both Brock and Goldberg to end off. Thankfully, they redeemed themselves at WrestleMania 33, but otherwise, this was not it. And it was so disappointing, because this on paper, I'm sure some people would argue, it's kind of a dream match caliber. Like definitely 2 of the most powerful men, one in WCW and one in WWE, at least at the time, putting on this stinker. It's like, what happened? I mean, we know what happened, but what happened, you know? But now going into WCW, my favorite individual match, actually, like I said, by process of elimination, that being Halloween Havoc 1993, Davey Boy Smith versus Lord Steven Regal. That's because mostly everything else I reviewed for WCW, who was okay at best, or abysmal at worst, and we will definitely get into the abysmal. But this match was pretty solid. Like Lord Steven Regal, well, always fantastic in the ring. Davey Boy Smith, aka the British Bulldog, definitely he was able to keep up, and they just put on a really good match against each other here. Her match of the year caliber, I wouldn't quite say, but it was still really good and better than a lot of the other stuff we looked at when it came to WWE. But nevertheless, then my least favorite individual wrestling match was, at least for WCW, was Halloween Havoc 1998, Hollywood Hogan versus The Ultimate Warrior. And you know what? I'm gonna get into a spoiler. This is also my least favorite match overall. And honestly, this is probably my least favorite match ever that I've watched. Like, this match was boring. Like, this match sucked. Like probably one of like there's a reason why many people consider this to be like the worst match in WCW history. Like Hogan and Warrior are like we're pretty much on like zombie mode the whole time. Like obviously neither man really what you call a technical wizard, but they do know how to excite the crowd, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this match was not exciting at all. And the fact that this was Warriors' one and only match, and it's pretty much used to put over Hogan, definitely doesn't do this match any favors. But yeah, this match that's just really slow and really dull. Went on way too long for no reason, and just totally he killed the vibe overall. Like this was just abysmal, honestly. Like, just no. Oh, no, no, no. Absolutely terrible. um but my favorite individual match from TNA, I gotta go with Lockdown 2008. That being Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle. Well, oh so oh oh so oh Yes. This one I also reviewed relatively recently. But this was a really awesome match. It's a match that Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler should have had at SummerSlam this year, and we'll get to that. But yeah, just a really fun match. A lot of intensity between Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle. You definitely can't go wrong with these two, and they definitely put on a really phenomenal match. They definitely tore the house down. Did Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle, and just put on a real barn burner of a match. Like just really really good stuff. Like giving it that MMA theme, but also making it exciting as a wrestling match. Makes this definitely a beautiful merger of the worlds. Before the actual merger of the worlds with TKO Holdings nowadays. But then and my least favorite match in TNA. And honestly, I just threw in the two matches that I reviewed for Awful Month. That being, and both of these take place at a Victory Road event. We have Victory Road 2009, Sharmell versus Jenna Maraska, and then Victory Road 2011, Sting versus Jeff Hardy, for two very different reasons. And Sharmell and Jenna Maraska, like they definitely put on a stinker. It was short, but it was very rough around the edges and very botchy. Didn't look good at all. They pretty much just fell over each other and just really put on a stinker. They definitely stunk up the joint. But you know what? At least they were sober, unlike Jeff Hardy. Like Jeff Hardy showing up pretty much gone out of this world. Sting is pissed, and understandably so. Told pretty much to put him away quick. Not only is it bad, it's embarrassing. And this is the main event of the evening. This is for the TNA World Championship, and Jeff Hardy, he showed up like this. And the fact that Jeff Hardy is still dealing with these issues to this day, it's absolutely insane. But yeah, this match short as well. Like they put us out of our misery. About a minute and some change, but that's a minute and some change I'm never gonna get back. The fans chant BS. Sting says I agree, and you know what? I agree too. Ooh, this match sucked. Unfortunately. And I also realized uh, it's because we did do some events, hence that we did do some events this year. I didn't put my favorite and least favorite event overall, even though it was WWE and one other. But I will I'll briefly mention those at least when we get to those. But now, I believe. Hey, nope, we got our favorite and least favorite overall. You already know what my least favorite overall is, and that's Halloween Having 98, that being Hollywood Hogan versus The Ultimate Warrior. But my favorite overall, I gotta give it to King of the Ring 98, Undertaker versus Mankind, for all the aforementioned reasons. Just an iconic match, iconic moment as well. Oh, and Mick Foley, all the props in the world for that bump that he took. Like Mick Foley, a man who definitely sacrificed himself for our entertainment. Forever a legend in my eyes is Mick Foley. But now, we move on to the current stuff. The most disappointing match. For WWE this year. You probably saw this coming, but I gotta give it to Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso at SummerSlam. And we gave up finishing Cody's story for this. It's like the thing is, the story going into this match was phenomenal. Jey Uso finally breaking away from Roman, and in fact, both the Usos was finally breaking away from Roman, and Jey finally getting this match, finally getting his redemption. Can he get the job done against Roman? Well, no. But the thing is, like, you knew Jey wasn't gonna win, but the way first of all, the way the match went, and really didn't do it any favors. But then the way the match ended was also very WTF, because like the match was pretty slow and pretty uneventful, which is unfortunate. Like a match of this magnitude, you expect a lot more from it. They did do some moments, but yeah, they definitely did do some moments, but otherwise, this match was just really, really just raw. And then they also like went against their own rule, like tribal combat. No other member of the bloodline, no other family member is allowed to get involved. Oh, but Solo showed up anyway, and then Jimmy Uso showed up, the man who not only also turned on Roman, but convinced his brother to turn on Roman as well. Shows up and costs Jey the match and joins back up with the Bloodline. I mean, why? Just why? Like why couldn't it have been? And like honestly, I would have been fine if Paul was the one who caused the interference. Yeah, it would have also been unsatisfying and kind of dumb, but at least it would have somewhat made sense. But Roman retained in there, and this I think is when like a lot of people consider that the moment where the bloodline story kind of jumped the shark, because like hey, now Roman's back in, and now Jimmy, he turns on his own brother, and it makes a total lack of sense. We got main event Jey Uso and to an extent Yeet out of it, but at the same time it's like, why? What are we doing here? It's really head scratching. And I don't think I mentioned this in SummerSlam, when I reviewed SummerSlam, but I definitely will mention it here because I think it's worth mentioning. And my theory, and this is mostly just my theory, is that they had to find a way to screw Jey out of the title, but it feels like they didn't quite know how. Like they knew, okay, Jey, we gotta screw him out of the title. Like we can't have him lose clean to Roman. Like we gotta have him lose. Okay, what can we do? Okay, so we have the tribal combat rules. It was no family members allowed. Okay, what do we do? Okay, I know. We'll just X out that family member part. Hope people forget, and then we'll just have Jimmy turn on him after Solo attacked Roman, and like, it's just why it's really weird. Or like, hey, just that 1-2 punch of them forgetting their own rules, and then and then Jimmy showing up to cost his brother the match. As now, if any story development, it maybe teased a little bit of dissension between Solo and Roman, but otherwise, even that seems to be going nowhere, at least for the time being. So it's really weird all around. Then and for AEW, the most disappointing match, I actually have two of them this time. The first is Double or Nothing in Adam Cole versus Chris Jericho, and then Full Gear Jay White versus MJF. So for Adam Cole and Chris Jericho at Double or Nothing, this is a match that really should have been and great. Like the feud going into this is as like kind of not really great as a lot of people like as some moments that made people uncomfortable as that, such as like Britt Baker getting the black eye and then Jericho wearing the shirt, Britt Baker having the black eye, like everything was phenomenal going into this. Britt Baker's taken out, Adam Cole was furious, it's unsanctioned, and Adam Cole and Chris Jericho are gonna beat the crap out of each other. And it didn't really happen that way. Like, there was some of that, but otherwise it didn't really happen. And it ended via referee stoppage. What? An unsanctioned match ending via referee stoppage. It's an unsanctioned match. A match that's technically not recognized by AEW, who as even canon, and ends via referee stoppage. Like they wanted to make Adam look like a badass, but totally missed the mark. Like when it came to that, the thing is, they had the perfect ending. Adam Cole nailing Chris Jericho with the chain wrapped around with the at least I think they call it drop the boom, but I often just call it the last shot because that's what he called it in NXT. He nailing the last shot on Chris Jericho with the chain wrapped around. That should have been the finish, but no, they went for the referee stoppage, and they pretty much, I forget who it was who said it, but I think they said it perfectly. Adam Cole, they stopped the match because Adam Cole was kicking too much ass. It's really weird, and it's really questionable why they went that route. The thing is, it almost would work if the match preceding it was much better than it should have been, and but then also if it wasn't an unsanctioned match. Like, could you imagine Shawn Michaels versus Triple H ending via referee stoppage after Shawn Michaels is bleeding buckets, like the referee saying, "Nope, that's it. He can't continue. Nope, ring the bell." Just why? Just why? Why did you do it that way? Why did you do it that way at all? And then Sabu, who they built up, was gonna play a big part in the match. He didn't, and he literally did one. He literally did one or two things at the beginning, and then was gone for the rest of the match. Thanks for coming, Sabu, but yeah, it's all around pretty disappointing. And then Jay White versus MJF. At least the match between these two was still mostly decent. It wasn't a total it wasn't as much of a snooze as Adam Cole and Chris Jericho, but essentially MJF still getting the win and getting still too much offense in on Jay White after all Bullet Club Gold had put him through. I wasn't expecting Jay White to win the match, but he almost didn't seem as credible as he should have been. And at least Jay White didn't lose clean. MJF used the Dynamite Diamond Ring, but otherwise, it was pretty weird in that regard. At least MJF's gear was nice, and Jay White's to an extent. But nevertheless, now the most disappointing match in NXT. You already know what it is. So let's go ahead and say it all at the same time, everybody. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. The Great American Bash, Gable Steveson versus Baron Corbin. You talk about an absolute stinker. This match sucked. The thing is and it's the debut match of Gable Steveson. Sometimes debuts don't go that well. Oh, but oftentimes debuts go better than this. Sadly, Baron Corbin in theory should have been the perfect opponent for Gable Steveson to start off with. Like his first opponent, Baron Corbin, of course, a very safe worker, or her veteran, and been there for a bit. But the match still sucked. Like, hey, Gable Steveson totally looked like a fish out of water when it came to that match, and totally he stunk up the joints, and it ended in a not double DQ, a double count out. They tried to save face afterwards, but yeah, the fans were not having it. I wasn't having it. No one was having it, and apparently the higher ups weren't having it because we haven't seen Gable Steveson in a wrestling ring since. And so yeah, just awful stuff all around, unfortunately. Hey, but then and next up, we got our match of the year stuff. So starting with WWE, the match of the year, in my opinion, is WrestleMania 39, and Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre. And I should clarify, night 2 of WrestleMania 39. But what a barn burner. This was a hard hitting match. This is a match that everybody was excited for, and a match that definitely delivered. Like all the strikes, all the hard shots, even the somewhat made sense sponsor and Tyson O'Neil's questionable commentary couldn't ruin this match. This was just a hard hitting affair. All three of these guys tore the house down. Just another excellent match and an excellent title reign for Gunther as Intercontinental Champion, and just phenomenal stuff. Just a phenomenal match. Just probably one arguably the match of the year. I definitely put it as my match of the year. And there's a reason why when WWE was doing that poll on in the YouTube community tabs, which I think I should probably post on community tabs. As from time to time, but help drive up engagement and everything. Plus to gauge some responses from you guys. But when in this match didn't quite get a whole lot of votes for being match of the year, a lot of people were upset, and understandably so, because this match was phenomenal. But then AEW, we have two slots for AEW when it comes to match of the year. That being Forbidden Door, Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega, and Revolution, MJF versus Bryan Danielson. And so, Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega put on a fantastic match at Forbidden Door, for people like me who weren't familiar with Will Ospreay, this is a great introduction for him. And of course, Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, definitely no strangers to each other. Just another match in their long-running feud. And if you missed their match from, I believe it was Wrestle Kingdom earlier, then this match definitely kind of like a replacement, that is, for people who didn't watch that match. Although I do want to go back and watch that match, I'm sure at some point. But this match was phenomenal. Both men, definitely tore the house down. And now Will Ospreay is all elite. So we'll see what he does now that he's in AEW. And then meanwhile, MJF versus Bryan Danielson, the 60-minute Iron Man match at Revolution. In the history of pro wrestling, Iron Man matches are usually hit or miss. They're either really good or really bad, or at least mid, or very subpar, I should say. But this one, definitely far from it. Both men tore the house down. Bryan Danielson continuing to be the best wrestler alive. MJF surprising a lot of people, having some funny antics. And if you think about it, showing the trajectory of MJF and his character throughout the year, this I think was the start of it. MJF putting on this long match under duress, the longest match of his career, pulling out the win, and just pulling out all the stops, putting on a fantastic match. And of course, because this is AEW, there was blood. There was that one cup spot with our kid that MJF kind of got in trouble for, but otherwise, just a phenomenal, really, really great match, and a great first title defense for MJF in his AEW championship run. And as for the match of the year for NXT, I gotta give it to this is technically 3 slot. but I put it in one, and that being the Carmelo Hayes versus Ilya Dragunov trilogy. Not just their two matches that they had at the premium live events, that being that being the Great American Bash and No Mercy, but then also their match that they had on the Halloween Havoc TV special. These two men tore the house down. Like this was a these were some fantastic matches, and you knew they would be. I should say, hey, these matches were good. I can't even speak, but these matches, like people were looking forward to. People were excited for these matches. People wanted to see what these two would do against each other. And when the time came and they finally faced off, it was a thing of beauty. Like both men definitely tore the house down. They killed it all three times. Like honestly, if any of these three, if people will selected any of these three as their favorite out of the trilogy, like I don't think anybody would blame them at all. Some of the best stuff. Some people were comparing it to the other, to one of the other or like best legendary rivalries within NXT. That being Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa. And honestly, yeah, I can understand those comparisons because they definitely tore the house down, and I can't wait to see what Trick Williams does going against Ilya Dragunov if we are indeed getting that Carmelo Hayes turn, technically later on tonight at New Year's Evil. So we'll see what they do there. But then next up is the events, and I do have to. And I do have to put kind of an asterisk. I do have. I do have the event there. Oh, but these are for current. And these are the current ones. We did do event for where we went back in the vault. We did do favorite least favorite when we went back in the vault, but we'll also do like favorite and least favorite overall. At least for going back in the vault, because we did go back in the vault a little bit. But nevertheless, for favorite events and for current WWE, I gotta give it to Survivor Series. On the whole, Survivor Series just a whole lot of fun, and including a moment that we'll talk about, and it was definitely a major moment. But the War Games matches were really fun. Even the stuff in between was fun for the most part, and a nice little palate cleanser between the two War Games matches to keep things exciting and interesting. The crowd in Chicago was red hot all night, and just as just a lot of fun and stuff from this event. As for my least favorite when it comes to current WWE, I gotta give it to Survivor Series. Not Survivor Series, SummerSlam, I should say. I just said Survivor Series was the best, but I gotta give it to SummerSlam. Like between Roman and Jay, and then also Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler, and then the other stuff on the show that was really good, but not quite enough to save the show. There was some really good on there, like the World Heavyweight Championship match between Seth Rollins and Finn Balor was really great. Ricochet and Logan Paul was pretty good as well, but otherwise, yeah, it's kind of, and those two matches I think really dragged it down. But otherwise, nothing really sadly to write home about, unfortunately. And compared to everything else, compared to all the other events this year, it definitely felt like SummerSlam kind of fell to the wayside, unfortunately. But then, next up for going back to the vault, my favorite and least favorites from WWE/F. My favorite, I definitely gotta give it to WrestleMania 24, and not just because it was a birthday present to myself, because it was the first WrestleMania I watched, but it still definitely holds up. Like, there's some good, some not as good, but it still got some really great things going for it. The Money in the Bank ladder match is a lot of fun. Edge and Undertaker was really awesome. Just some really good stuff. It's a WrestleMania that still, I think, ages relatively well. And then my least favorite, I gotta go with December to Dismember, and I'm pretty sure you know why. It's not often, and I said this in my review, but it bears repeating. It's not often that an event is so bad that it draws the lowest pay-per-view buy rates. Only 2 matches are announced ahead of time. It leads to two or three wrestlers asking for the release. I forget exactly how many. At least two or three wrestlers asked for the release, and somebody gets fired, and that somebody being Paul Heyman, who told Vince McMahon that the event was suck. And the thing is, the two matches that were announced ahead of time were the best matches of the night, which isn't really saying much. Much like the Hardys and Eminem, they did what they could, and the Extreme Elimination Chamber was fun concept, but but not as good as it should have been, especially when your favorites such as CM Punk and RVD get eliminated early, and Bobby Lashley wins the whole thing, and not almighty Bobby Lashley, like the cool Bobby Lashley, but very much not as much personality Bobby Lashley. He hey, yeah, I think it's time to wrap it up after that. But those are my but that's not my least favorite overall. My favorite overall, I think, would be WrestleMania 24 for the aforementioned reasons. But the least favorite, as bad as December to Dismember was, it wasn't as bad as Heroes of Wrestling. Just an event that just an event and that seemed almost doomed for failure, like having guys well past their prime putting on these absolutely abysmal matches. One decent match, that's the rest absolutely abysmal. And then what happened in the main event. And you know what? As iffy as the booking is, having a non-weapons match involving Tommy Dreamer and having him lose to Davari, or having matches that were impromptu, that were pretty much there to fill up the card, or at least it wasn't as bad as Drunk Jake Roberts. Hurts, and I will leave it at that. But now moving on to AEW, my favorite and least favorite event when it comes to AEW. For favorite, I definitely gotta give it to Forbidden Door. Forbidden Door was a lot of fun, not just for Omega and Ospreay, but also for Danielson, for Zack Sabre Jr. Or actually that was what Wrestle Dream. Never mind. Danielson versus Okada, I should say, and some other fun stuff, showing some of the best from both AEW and New Japan. And in that regard, it was just a lot of fun. And those two matches, the two matches that were announced ahead of time, really helped boost up the show even more. And then my least favorite, sadly, I gotta give it to Double or Nothing. And sadly, not even the Anarchy in the Arena or the Four Pillars match could save the match from being could save the match from still grinding through the mud. And it's mainly down to Adam Cole and Chris Jericho. Everything else was a kind of decent, and Adam Cole and Chris Jericho really bring things down. They tried to salvage it with the Four Pillars versus match for the AEW World Championship, and the Anarchy and the Rhea match, but sadly, he compared to every other show this year, still the weakest by far, by comparison. But then, and next up for NXT, for favorite, I gotta give it to No Mercy. No Mercy was a lot of fun, including the second in the Hayes Dragunov trilogy. And there was some other fun stuff on there as well. Including, I believe this was when Wesley took on Dominic Mysterio. For the North American title, that is. So, with those merits, No Mercy was a lot of fun as well in that regard. And then my least favorite, I gotta give it to the Great American Bash, and that's mainly off the strength or lack thereof of Gable Steveson versus Baron Corbin. They tried with the rest of the show, but that one really dragged it down. But then, and my favorite and least favorite overall events this year, believe it or not, both are the ones I said for WWE. My favorite event overall, I gotta give it to Survivor Series. Survivor Series, like I said, it was a lot of fun. My least favorite overall, I definitely maybe it's a bit unfair, but I do have to give it to SummerSlam. Sadly, pretty disappointing on the whole, especially those two matches, Rousey and Baszler, and then Roman and Jay. Those should have been way better. Unfortunately, they were not. But now we get into individual wrestlers. So my favorite wrestler in WWE this year, or I should say last year technically, because we are in 2024, of course. My favorite wrestler of 2023, at least in terms of WWE, I gotta give it to Gunther. Like, he has been on fire this year, having a phenomenal Intercontinental Championship reign, having great matches against guys such as Chad Gable, Tommaso Ciampa, and the mid is Drew McIntyre, Sheamus. It's like, a, just definitely been on fire. Or like arguably probably one of, if not the best Intercontinental champions of all time. Yeah, I'll go that far. He might be probably the best IC champion of all time. Just as putting on banger after banger after banger this year, he has definitely been on fire. In terms of my my favorite wrestler from AEW, who I actually have two. The first, maybe a bit surprising, considering considering where he kind of is in standing with AEW, but also some of the stuff that happened to him this year. But the first pick, I'm going with MJF. Granted, MJF's booking hasn't always been the best this year, but it's kind of up in the air as to whether or not he has officially re-signed with AEW. Who he's been taken off the roster. Some are saying it's a work, some are saying it's not. But otherwise, the match quality from MJF has been really good this year. We've seen the evolution of MJF becoming a more of a fiery babyface. He's transitioning from that despicable heel to the babyface. We've gotten some more lore behind him. Like I said, not always the best as in terms of what they've done with his character, but he's definitely more than made up for it in match quality, becoming more over with the fans, and continuing to be entertaining. And his AEW World Championship reign was still really, really great. But if you want someone who definitely had both, with both really great booking consistently with their character, or as well as great match quality, my other pick is Orange Cassidy. Like the things that Orange Cassidy has done with the International Championship have been phenomenal. There's a reason why technically the other three, but the other two international champions this year haven't held a candle to Orange Cassidy. Well, first of all, because both their reigns have been incredibly short, but also because Orange Cassidy putting on banger after banger almost every week, putting his body through incredible amounts of harm, really evolving, retaining some of that goofiness of his character, but really also getting to show off his wrestling acumen, and definitely becoming a lot more of a serious competitor, and still being incredibly impressive in the ring. In Orange Cassidy, this definitely has been his breakout year, from just kind of like a mid to lower card guy, to more in the main event. He even main evented All Out this year. Lest we forget, he main evented All Out this year. So Orange Cassidy definitely has been a workhorse this year. In terms of my least favorite wrestlers from both WWE and AEW, and I think for this one I just lumped in WWE and AEW. Although I probably shouldn't have done that. And honestly, I'll kind of tweak them. I'll give you my favorite from NXT. That has been Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes. What can I say? Carmelo Hayes definitely, especially coming to his own this year with the NXT Championship, getting even more of a focus than before. And Ilya Dragunov has been phenomenal as well. Not just when it comes to the NXT Championship, but even Ilya Dragunov's match against Dijak at I believe it may have been in Battleground where he faced Dijak. That was really good, and obviously the stuff with the NXT Championship. Meanwhile, Carmelo Hayes also has been on fire. He's been in this really interesting whodunit storyline with Trick Williams. It hasn't quite lost steam yet. It's lost some of its steam, but hasn't quite lost all of its steam yet. So they've definitely been impressive in NXT, and I argue definitely both of them ready for the main roster. They kind of been prepping Carmelo Hayes for that already, having him participate in the U.S. Championship tournament, and so Carmelo Hayes seems to be earmarked for the main roster, and he definitely deserves it. And I'm pretty sure he will do very well on the main roster. Uh, for my least favorite wrestlers, there's there's uh this pick I have for WWE is more so in NXT, so we'll save him for NXT. Uh, but but um, but I think my least favorite wrestler for this year in WWE, he honestly, as much as it pains me to say, I might have to go with Roman on this one. I think mostly because he's been taking time off, which honestly he has kind of earned. Let's be clear, he definitely has earned some of that time off, because he's definitely been carrying the company with the Universal Championship run in the middle of this historic Universal Championship run, but unfortunately he a lot of people are pointing out a lot of his matches have gotten kind of repetitive, and the fact that he isn't there as often. He still shows up, and thankfully the Bloodline still has a presence with like Jimmy and Paul and Solo. But otherwise, Roman he still put on really good matches this year, but definitely you can tell the reign starting to get, no pun intended, you can tell the reign starting to get a bit tired, or a bit long in the tooth even at some point. So I sadly might have to give this one to Roman. In terms of AEW, and I know she's technically not in AEW anymore, but I think I gotta give it to Jade Cargill. Well, only because her matches compared to the other stuff have not as great. Although I'm interested to see what she does in WWE, when she eventually makes her debut for WWE. And then in NXT, if you couldn't tell by my least favorite match, I gotta go with Gable Steveson, because yeah, yeah, like it really stunk up the joint, you know. But in that match he had with Corbin, unfortunately, and the fact that he's no longer being booked, that they're not really caring too much about him, and like not even booking him in anything, and the fact that that's gonna be people's last memory of him is sticking up the joint in that match with Corbin. That's very bad. But as for most improved, and I also realized I forgot to do a category for NXT as well. Why did I forget NXT twice here? Or so I'll have to do it verbally. But nevertheless, for most improved for WWE, there are two picks. One pick that everybody's been saying, which I do agree with, but then another pick I have to supplement it. The first pick that everybody's been saying is Dominic Mysterio, and that's very much earned. Dominic has definitely come into his own this year, especially this year with being North American champion and everything. Like, we got a little bit of taste of it last year, but it was pretty late into the year when Dominic turned and joined the Judgment Day. But this year, seeing him really come into his own on being the snivelly, whiny little brat that he is at least in terms of his character within the Judgment Day, seeing kind of his character development, and stepping out of his father's shadow, being more that arrogant, petulant child. Seeing that character be developed, drawing, of course, the comparisons to Eddie when it comes to his character. Like, Dominic has definitely been on fire this year, and he's definitely earned his stripes this year, especially. But the other one I have is Jey Uso, main event Jey Uso. And Jey Uso, especially coming into his own. Now he's going on a singles run on putting on some really good matches, getting over with the crowd, which he already was in the Bloodline, but now he's really going out on his own, on having a really solid solo run. Now that they're finally going full force committed, yes, we're gonna make Jey Uso a solo star, or now that he's no pun intended to his brother Solo, of course, but seeing Jay, seeing the things he's doing as a single superstar, and to an extent as a tag team when he won the titles with Cody, he like seeing all the stuff Jay's been doing, and seeing how far he's come from being part of the Usos and everything, which the Usos still a fantastic team, but really seeing how he breaks out on his own is really, really fantastic to see. As for her AEW, who I gotta give it to Swerve Strickland. Like, definitely been getting over with the dances, and of course part of that is thanks to Prince Nana and his like funny dances, but also seeing Swerve getting improved booking, like becoming more of more dominant, more of a threat, like looking really good, especially in like the Continental Classic. Swerve, you can definitely tell they're starting to, and him getting not one but two wins in a row on Hangman Adam Page. It's like you can definitely tell they're setting him up for big things. Like honestly, like seeing him like for him, if he won the AEW World Championship next year, I don't think too many people would be mad at it. I think a lot of people would actually be happy. Like that'd be awesome to see. If anybody, he definitely has the chops and potential to become the first black AEW World Champion besides Keith Lee. It's definitely Swerve Strickland, and and he's always been phenomenal. But now I think is when a lot of people are really starting to realize and it's the year that a lot and his booking is starting to reflect that as well, which is really really great. As for NXT, for most improved, who I might have to give it to Timothy Stratton, and her becoming NXT Women's Champion, becoming more of a main event star, or her is really awesome to see. He evolving from just like the rich girl Barbie image to becoming champion and everything. Having a match with Becky Lynch as well, that was really great to see. But there are a number of people that you could also fit on there. Or on that list, that is. But now, moving into matches that could have been improved, and honestly, I left out AEW again as well on here, which I gotta stop doing. As well as the last category, but nevertheless, as matches that could have been improved. Honestly, they're just the matches that I had that were most disappointing. So for WWE, it's Roman versus Jay. I promise I'm not gonna go into another spiel about it because I already have multiple times in this video. And Adam Cole and Chris Jericho, and then Gable Steveson, Baron Corbin for WWE, AEW, and NXT respectively. Like some disappointing matches that could have and should have been better. Or as for events that could have been improved, who I went with SummerSlam and Double or Nothing. For the reasons that I mentioned. I definitely I definitely expected better from those two events, especially with a lot of the build, some of the matches going into it. Like I definitely expected better, and we didn't quite get that. But then, and lastly, the favorite moment of the year from WWE. We have favorite moment and biggest missed opportunity, and I'll also verbally say it for NXT. But my favorite moments of the year actually have two. The first is CM Punk's return at Survivor Series. Hell truly has frozen over. CM Punk being back in WWE. It was a moment that people saw coming, but people are still surprised that it actually happened. CM Punk walking out, being in WWE, and now seeing him a part of the roster. He's got merch. He's involved with on-air talent. He's helping out with NXT talent. He's appearing on NXT. It's definitely a time standing still moment, and one of those where were you moments. Where were you when the impossible happened, when CM Punk returned to WWE? And where were you when CM Punk eventually did pretty much the unthinkable by returning and came back in WWE's good graces? It's definitely one of those where were you moments. As for and the other pick I have is Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso's press conference after they won the tag titles at Fastlane. Mostly because it's just funny. As far as I'm concerned, Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso, you two are never allowed to do another press conference ever again while sober, because that was hilarious. I haven't seen the thing in full, but seeing some of the highlights, it's just fun. It is just absolutely funny. Just the antics and stuff that they did in the press conference. It's just funny. It's just funny stuff. I found it amusing. A lot of people found it amusing. It was just funny. Honestly, it's just hilarious. It's yeet indeed. But nevertheless, the biggest opportunity. Speaking of Cody Rhodes, the biggest opportunity. I'm sure this is something that everybody saw coming, and I'm sure this is something that's going to cause a lot of discourse. but Cody Rhodes not beating Roman at WrestleMania. Now, this is kind of a hindsight thing, and I'll explain why. But when it first happened, I desperately tried to give WWE the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what? If they can prove that Cody winning at WrestleMania was not the right move at the time, and if they prove why Cody had to lose to Roman, if they make it make sense as to why, it'll be justified. And sadly, WWE didn't really do that. They almost did it with like the bloodline crumbling. But then anybody could have just been in that spot. But Cody Rhodes, who had come back from this major injury, who seemed pretty much earmarked, who had all this build going into it, his story, his father never winning a world championship, his brother never winning a world championship, overcoming all this adversity, getting Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens back together on the same page, all that, just to lose to Roman. Granted, he didn't lose clean, which is nice. It's like he lost via solo interference after Solo had already been ejected. But to see that loss, to see it just take the wind out of the sails, like it was a moment in like before even SummerSlam, it was a moment where a lot of people said, okay, this reign from Roman is starting to get a little long in the tooth. The fact that Cody had to lose now, like in hindsight, and the reason I said had there's the power of hindsight here is because in hindsight, I probably would have just had like Sammy win the Rumble and then lose to Roman at WrestleMania, because then at least you wouldn't waste Cody. Cody, he getting a couple losses under his belt. Is not. I'm not inherently against Cody losing, and like, hey, especially, because with him transitioning into his feud with Brock, which that 1-2 punch of Cody losing and then being turned on by Brock, and then having to fight Brock pretty much after that from after WrestleMania all the way through SummerSlam. Like, I'm not inherently against that, but it does kind of take the wind out of the momentum. And if Cody truly is still earmarked to face and potentially beat Roman at WrestleMania, and because The Rock is back, it seems like that might not be the case. Like, it's probably not going to be as impactful as it should be. Like, there are people still hyped for it, and people still optimistic for it, but I don't think it's going to quite have the same impact as it should have, unfortunately. Like, a lot of people are confused by it. Like, some people did call it, some people called it, but a lot of people are confused by it. Like, why didn't Cody win at WrestleMania? Like, hey, why didn't he finally knock Roman off his perch? If not Cody, then who? Because at that point, Cody was kind of the last person left, and then Roman still had both the titles. They had to create the world title as almost kind of a consolation prize. Seth, try as he might to say, no, the world championship's not the consolation prize. It's actually, the working man's championship. Yeah, it's the working man's championship on Raw. It's not like that other Universal Championship. This is his own championship. This is the working man's championship. But it still felt very much like that, consolation prize. As I think I think it just really made that moment feel worse. Like, hey, Cody, I think definitely should have won. Like, the Ascension of the Bloodline, honestly, probably didn't need the championship. Honestly, the Ascension of the Bloodline could have started because Roman was no longer champion. Like, Roman's no longer champion, he starts taking it out on his cousin, and leading to them turning on him. But yeah, it was really baffling. It was baffling then. It's still baffling now. But we'll see what they do with it. It looks like for now the plan might still be to have Cody face Roman at Mania and potentially take it off him. So we'll see what they do. But nevertheless, moving to AEW. My favorite moment was a moment that just happened, and technically the other day, and that being the reveal of Adam Cole as the Devil, culminating the storyline between MJF and whoever stole his Devil mask, and then his friendship with Adam Cole, this partnership that really bloomed in 2023, ending in this betrayal. It's a moment that I saw coming, but it still hurts the core, man. Like seeing Adam Cole will turn on MJF. MJF finally having one true friend, realizing not everybody's bad. I don't have to be a scumbag. But then Adam Cole turns out to be the biggest scumbag. And it happened in MJF's hometown. He really lost, and he really lost, and then got and got betrayed by his best friend, his brochacho, in his hometown. Oh man, that is cruel. Oh, Tony Khan, the gloves are off. No more winning in your hometown, boys. Is if Darby Allin can't win in Seattle, then you ain't winning in Long Island. And Max, uh, but yeah, that moment, and then find out who all was in on it. Roddy Strong, the Kingdom, and Wardlow, of course, versus aligned with Adam Cole. Those we kind of saw coming, especially because they have some grudges with Max. Max and Roddy, he trying to maintain his friendship with Adam Cole, but then seeing Adam Cole's behind it the whole time is just it's wow. Oh, and it also gives some of those like oh moments, especially now that I think about it. I don't think the person in the devil mask actually moved at all because if he moved, he would have moved with a limp, just like Adam Cole. So, so it all panned out. Oh, now we see what they do with the storyline, especially with MJF potentially taking some time off, and may or may not resign. So we'll see what they do with it for now. Oh, as for their biggest missed opportunity, this one is one that everybody's been saying, and funnily enough, it ties into WWE's big favorite moment, my favorite moment for WWE, and that's not getting CM Punk or to an extent CMFTR versus the elites. Like like hey, this is not like a oh pro WWE anti AW sucks kind of thing, but I think it's very telling that unlike the elite. Seth Rollins, and despite his personal issues with CM Punk, despite having issues with CM Punk, because he knows the fans want him, and because he knows the fans want to see it, that Seth Rollins is willing to put his difference aside, put his pride aside, willing to play ball with CM Punk. All right, CM Punk, Phil, what have you, who we have our issues, but we'll work together. We'll work together. We'll do business. We'll do what needs to be done. The fact that the elites, sadly, weren't doing that, and granted, I kind of get it, like having this big issue and trying to keep them apart. Or understandably, I do get it, but at the same time, I'm leaving essentially all this money on the table because this is a feud a lot of people want to see. They want to see CM Punk battle the Elite. They want to see CMFTR battling the Elite. You already had FTR taking on the Young Bucks, but seeing CM Punk and FTR battling the Elite, he mixing the storyline with the real life drama. People want to see that, but sadly we didn't get that and I don't think all of it boils down to politics, but yeah, and understandable. And like I said, it's kind of understandable because sometimes and theoretically you wouldn't want to cause too much of an issue, but man, what a big missed opportunity. As for NXT, my favorite moment of the year would probably be what would my favorite moments of the year be for NXT? Probably Carmelo Hayes winning the NXT Championship because it kickstarted such a phenomenal NXT Championship reign. But in that regard, right? As for the biggest missed opportunity, I'm not gonna. Ooh, sorry. I'm not gonna rag on Gable Steveson anymore. I promise. I promise. But as for her biggest missed opportunity, I'd say probably the way the kind of reveal and how Alexis King got involved in the whole Carmel Hayes Trick Williams saga, how that got involved. Honestly, a lot of people are blaming Alexis King for his promo and really sapping the strength out of that promo where Alexis King potentially may have admitted it. He's the one who attacked Trick Williams and Trick accidentally punches Carmelo. Oh, but honestly, it's not fully on him. Like the whole segment felt rushed, and it doesn't help that they were already over the time. Like the segment did feel kind of rushed, unfortunately. But yeah, but otherwise, it's still a phenomenal year, not just for pro wrestling, but in general, especially for the channel. But that is it for the year-end awards. I know this was definitely a long one, but thank you all for watching. Thank you for sticking it out for the long haul. And I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, of course, please do me a favor: like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video, so you can see as soon as it drops. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the year-end awards and what was your favorite and least favorite moments, not just from my channel, but Well, whether it be wrestling, movies, video games, and what type of stuff do you want to see me review and stuff in the future on the channel? Any recommendations? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll definitely see you guys later, and of course, follow me on my social medias as we have a Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Those are all linked in the link tree down below. In the description. So go check those out. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Peace.